Streets 989 Atlanta. Greetings and welcome to Motivating and Inspiring the Next Generation X through true life experiences live on Streets 989 Atlanta, a platinum radio network. I'm your host, Evangelist Jazzy. Today, we welcome the life and motivation of Bishop Carolyn Tyler Guidry, retired, elected, and consecrated the 122nd African Methodist Episcopal Bishop and Civil Rights Advocate. Bishop Tyler Guidry joins us today for our Black History Trailblazers and Powerful Women of Fairburn, Georgia series, and to share her moments in the Civil Rights March and her amazing work with Medgar Evers and her visit with Dr. Martin Luther King. Let's bring on Bishop Tyler Guidry. Hi, Bishop. How are you?
Hi, Miss Jazzy. How are you today?
I am also. It is a pleasure and honor to have you on today. Thank you for joining us to share your motivations and passions in life with our audience. Let's get started.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really honored.
Awesome. Bishop, share with us your amazing journey as the first woman appointed to be presiding elder and second woman to become a bishop.
I am a lifelong member of the African Methodist Episcopal Church. I was born in Jackson, Mississippi. My grandmother was one of the founders of our little neighborhood church, institutional AME church. Uh-huh. And so all of my life I've been a member. I was, as I said, born AME. I received Christ when I was 8 years old. And I was quite a bit older, about 39, when I was called into ministry. And became one of the first women ordained as an itinerant elder in the 5th Episcopal District, which included California and I think 14 Midwestern states.
And you are also known as the Right Reverend.
Well, that's the title for bishops in our church.
Oh, right.
The Right Reverend.
Oh, wow.
And so I pastored from 1977 until 1994. Mm-hmm. And in 1994, Bishop Anderson appointed me as a presiding elder. Presiding elder serves as supervisor over several churches in an area. I was in Southern California. Okay. And so I was the elder over 22 congregations. And so the presiding elder is middle management. In other words, my responsibility to make sure of everything that's going on with those churches and to be the one to report to the bishop in his or her absence. And so I served in that capacity from 1994 until 2004 when I was elected a bishop in the African Methodist Church. And so I ran for bishop because you have to campaign for bishop in our church. Uh-huh. And so I campaigned for 1996 General Conference, and then 4 years later the 2000 General Conference, and then I was elected 4 years later in the 2004 General Conference.
And you're also the first woman bishop to retire.
I'm the first female bishop to retire. Yes, I served 8 years as an active bishop. I served in the Caribbean, which included Jamaica, Trinidad, U.S. Virgin Islands, Dominican Republic, Haiti, London, and then we started churches in France, which became a part of the then we took from the London conference, became the European conference while I was serving. And then from 2008 to 2012, I served my home district where I was born, Mississippi and Louisiana, and retired from there in 2012.
Awesome. Bishop, your life is centered on the Word of God. Tell us more about how you are empowering others to live their full purpose in life.
Well, I was fortunate enough to be raised by a grandmother who taught me, first of all, as a Black girl, that I was important and that I could do whatever it was that I wanted to do. She encouraged me not to ever allow people to discourage me, because if anybody else could do something, then I could do it. And she would say, and you can do it better. Mm-hmm. And so all of my life, I've had that attitude. But even when I became the first woman to be ordained an elder in the Southern California Conference, I started then to advocate for women and to encourage young women. When I became a pastor, I made sure that in the congregations that I served, I had programs to encourage young men and young women. We had programs for recovering alcoholics and addicts, and out of that group of people, there are at least 5 of them who are preaching now. In fact, we're celebrating today the birthday of one of my daughters in ministry in California. Awesome. And so
awesome.
I think that I've always felt that whatever God has given to me, He's given me to share, not to just keep for myself or just to aggrandize my own self, but to encourage others. And so I've been blessed to be able to mentor young men and young women in ministry and over the years, and many of them are doing well as they serve the church and serve God's people.
Bishop, you are also a lifetime member with the NAACP and honorary member with Sigma Gamma Rho sorority. How are you working with those organizations to make sure that our next generation receive the quality and the knowledge that is necessary to be successful in life?
Well, I became a member of the NAACP when I worked with Medgar Evers in Jackson, Mississippi, during the Civil Rights Movement. And so I have renewed my membership every year, every 2 years, or whatever I would sign up for. But in 2011, I believe it was, when I was still in Mississippi as bishop, I became a lifetime member of the NAACP, and I've got my little plaque that shows that I'm a lifetime member. And so, and I encourage other people to support the NAACP and other organizations. We've got some more growing out now. Young people are moving away from church-based organizations like the Black Lives Matter and that kind of thing, but they still have their purpose is to lift up Black people and to encourage Black people. And so I've always had this thing about voter registration,
right?
Because we fought so hard to get people registered to vote, particularly in my home state, Mississippi. And so we had to fight for it. We had to pull some shenanigans along the way. And by that, I mean, we had to register the person who was in charge of voter registration. You'd have to go to his office to register. And even after the rule was passed that Black people could register to vote, they found ways to not allow you to vote.
Right. And I know you were recently very heavily involved in the governor's race here in Georgia. Share with us some of those experiences and important it is for our younger people to be a part of this process in the future.
Well, I think voting is important because when you think there was a time when we would go to the registrar's office and they say at 8 o'clock in the morning to register to vote, and they say he's out to lunch. And so when the Freedom Riders started coming through, and there were a lot of white people, we had to strategize. And what we would do is one of the young white men or women would go into the office and say, I want to register to vote. The registrar would come out, and we would have already planned to unload the bus that we had out front to go in, because now he's at the desk. He can't say he's not there. So it's that, all of that. But as it became easier to vote, to register to vote anyway, as a pastor, as a presiding elder, as a bishop, I made sure that young people that were under my ministry, when they reached 17 and a half, I would have programs and the young people would be there. And I'd hand out voter registration cards to them and say, fill this out and give it back to me. And I mailed it in to be sure that they were registered to vote. Now, in this last campaign in Georgia here with Stacey Abrams running for governor, and we found out that so many things went wrong with the voters, like not enough booths being made available, people being given the wrong voter registration place, and all kinds of things that are now being litigated, of course, in court. And I've met a lot of young people during that campaign when I would ask them if they were registered to vote, who would tell me no, they were not registered to vote. I kind of get heart palpitations when I hear that from young Black people, especially.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I know that they've come through an age of integration, and what they don't realize is that was not integration; it was assimilation, because the system requires that Black people become like the majority, rather than the majority taking what is good of us and allowing us to take what is good of them and integrating that together. And so young people don't always understand that, because it's been a little easier for them.
Yes, ma'am.
And even when they're seeing young Blacks being killed in large numbers by police, harsher jail sentences for minor infractions,
yes,
they still don't understand that their vote would help to rectify some of that.
Well, Bishop, since we're talking about the election, we have the 2020 election coming up, and we have over 200 individuals that have put their hat in the race on the Democratic side.
No, not 200, 20.
No, ma'am. It's risen.
Not to 200, though.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll have to go back and look at that. I don't think so. I don't think it's 200.
Well, it's so many that I think they've over exaggerated on the number, but it's definitely more than 5. So let's just say it's more than 5. Any thoughts? Any?
Well, I think every one of them. First of all, there will be a primary.
Right.
And so people will be eliminated, and we will have the Democratic nominee to go against whoever's running in the general election. I am not so concerned about how many people are throwing their hat in the ring as I am about how many people are not registered to vote, in my opinion.
Right.
And so I think I don't care. I don't tell people to be Democrat or to be Republican. I just say too many people died, lost their lives, so that Black people could be registered to vote and to exercise their right to vote in the system. For any Black person to say, I won't register, or I'm not registered, or I don't vote, because my vote don't count. Even in this past election, we saw too many elections that hung on 2 votes or 1 vote. That was in one place where they had to pull a name out of the hat because they were tired. And so every vote counts. And so it's our responsibility to watch the system, to be sure that the system is fair, to protest when folk are trying to gerrymander around our vote and us out of voting, but to make sure that you're involved. Because when you are involved and voting, then somebody's going to pay attention.
Yes, that is true. Bishop, when you look back over the years, are there any life experiences that has molded you as an individual that you are today that you would like to share?
Well, I really think that everything in our life molds us, whether it's the mistakes we made, whether it's the choices that we've made. Everything makes us. It's only how we accept those. I'm a little black girl born in Mississippi, born out of wedlock, where people said that she'd never be nothing because her mama wasn't nothing.
Amen.
But I had a grandmother who told me that I didn't have to accept that wasn't true. Mm-hmm. And so my uncles taught me to read when I was about 4 years old. So when I started kindergarten at 5 or 6, I was able to read and write my name and do at least my first 10 numbers. And so I married before I went to college. My husband, however, insisted that I go back to school. And so with his encouragement and insistence, I went back to school. I got a college degree. I entered ministry. The church said that I had to have a seminary degree. And so when the church passed that law in 2000, I went back to seminary and got a seminary degree in 4 years. So when I got elected bishop in 2004, I was also a graduate of the Fuller Theological Seminary with a master's degree in theology. And so I've had a lot of good influences in my life. My grandmother, my family, the husband that I married when I was 15 years old, who was a Christian man, and we raised 6 children together who are all members of somebody's church. They're Christians. Amen. 2 of them are ministers. I now have 2 grandsons who have entered ministry. And so as I look back over my life, I don't know how much I can take credit for, because I know in my heart of hearts that my steps have been ordered by God. I've attempted to the best of my ability to follow those steps, but I have to be honest. In my humanity, sometimes I've stepped off the path, but God has been gracious and always brought me back to where He wanted me to be.
Bishop, any final words of wisdom for our audience today?
My final words are, every individual lives your life, and when you get to a point, you should have no regrets. And by that, I don't mean that you will not have made some mistakes. But if you allow your mistakes to move you forward instead of backwards, then you can look back over your life without regret.
Bishop, that is a powerful statement. And I hope that someone in our audience receives that blessing. We wish you continued success in your life, Bishop, and I thank you so much for sharing your motivations and passions today with our audience. We're going to say goodbye for now, but, I'll definitely be back in touch with you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being a good neighbor.
Okay, and many blessings, and I'll talk to you soon, okay? Bye-bye now.
All right. Bye-bye.
Motivating, and inspiring the next generation X through true life experiences. Live on Streets 989 Atlanta with your host, Evangelist Jazzy. History.